Bezrat Hashem Naaseh v'netzliach. Thank you for keeping your cameras on. It helped. Oh, Cynthia's on. I was happy. I was hoping. I was hoping, and now I'm happy. Okay. Fine. Amazing, amazing, amazing. And Bezrat Hashem, in the schut of the learning today, we'll give all the koach to all the forces that be, giving them spiritual support in this mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz that we're going to be learning, and what he's going to be, all the Air Force and all the people sitting and making decisions, and Hashem should just send them via our way. B'ezrat Hashem, we have a big schos. It just came to me as I'm talking and babbling, actually, that in Shemaim, after 120 years, what will be revealed to us, this is what Chazal say, all of the things that we did of a good nature that we had on no idea how we were affecting the world. B'ezrat Hashem, we're going to, after 120 years, even before that, with Mashiach coming, we'll actually appreciate and understand all the Torah that we learn, but especially this one in Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, that we love this mitzvah so much. So critical, as Rav Teichel is explaining, so critical to the unfolding of the Geula, Shlema, and the miracles that we're seeing today, and the strength of the Jews, that we're going to see, and we're going to be like, so shining bright. And you know what? I'm not going to leave it at that after 120 years. May our neshamot, even now, have the schut to get in touch with the light that we're bringing into this world through all of these teachings. That it should give us chizuk and to go on with strength, with bitachon, with ahava, with lots of love in our heart, to be encouraged and to continue being the light that we're meant to be in this world. And we should get in touch with it even now. And this is a little bit the theme that Rav Teichel is going to be teaching us now. We're on subsection 71 in the third chapter. Is that correct? We did 70 last week. We did 69 and 70, and we're at 71. And before we go into it, I want to explain that up until now, this whole book that he's teaching, he's really addressing who's his audience, the Haredim that he comes from, the position, again, yeah, the lion. I was thinking maybe I should position the camera to my Sforim this time. Maybe I should have Sforim in back of me, but no, Dafka the lion is very appropriate today. Yeah, okay, good. So what am I trying to say? What was I saying now? That he was addressing the anti-Zionist position of trying to get the religious people of his time during the Holocaust and pre-Holocaust that said Israel is not such a religious place. It's being run by non-religious people. Yes, they're building the land, but we don't want to have any part of it. They might spoil our children if we move there, and they're going to have all kinds of influences that we don't want. We like the fact that we're insular. This protects us. This is what kept the Jewish people going for millennium in Galut, and we're not going to go to Israel now to have all of that undone by the non-religious. And up until now, he's trying to make headway with that religious position to say, you don't get it. If you go en masse to Israel, you'll be the influencing voice. You'll have what to say. You'll bring your Torah and you'll be the influencers. You'll be able to see development in the land in terms of the institutions and the government policies and everything like that from a Torah perspective. But if you keep yourselves away, how is that ever going to happen? And up until now, he was addressing that position. But from this subsection in this chapter, he's addressing Dafka, the secular pioneers of the builders of the land. What is the message for them for going about their building of the mitzvah, the beautiful mitzvah, the important mitzvah of building the land and settling the land. What does it mean to do that without Torah? And so he's addressing those people now and their efforts. So he says here, והנה כבר בפתיחת הספר היטפתי מילין לעולי ובוני הארץ על זמננו. And from the beginning of this book, he says, I addressed, no, hold on. At the beginning of the book, he made mention of it in the beginning of the book, but now he's going to go back to it, to the pioneers and the olim and the settlers of the land. And now he's going to flesh out what the message he has for them. כבר הוכחתי לדעת שאור ישועת ישראל תלוי בהשתתפות כל כלל ישראל. I've already made the point, Rav Teichel said, that the salvation of all of the Jewish people is dependent on the full cooperation of all elements of Israeli and Jewish society in this holy work of building of and settling of the land. It's not, it has to be everybody's involvement, no matter what camp you belong to. In other words, the pious and the religious people, those who have fear of heaven upon them, and also in participation with all the rest of the Jewish people who are not holding by that level of Yirat Shamayim, of commitment to Torah. No matter who they are, every single Jew, if they identify as a Jew, they have a Jewish neshama, they're born of a Jewish mother, they're converted in a kosher way, they're part of the fold, they're Jewish. Everyone has to be participating in this mitzvah. And this, without that, like the religious, without the not religious, and the non-religious, without the religious, will never be able to reach the goal. It means everybody has to be on this together. Because the settlers and the builders of the land, which granted in the first aliyot in the 1800s, even going back as the 1700s, when there was encouragement by the Vilna Gaon and by the Baal Shem Tov, encouraging their followers to settle the land, the aliyot were started off by religious people, very Haredi people, to bring the Jewish presence back in the land in a stronger way than it has been. And then somehow by the end of the 1800s and the early 1900s, it became more the privilege, the merit of the socialists, the non-religious Jews that said, we got to get out of this, Eastern Europe, the Pale of Settlement, and all the anti-Semitism of Europe in general, and we have to build our own land. And they weren't thinking of it from a religious perspective, they're thinking of it more from a practical place. Nobody likes us, no matter how much we assimilate. So we already have a territory called Eretz Yisrael, geographically located. We know exactly where it is. That's our natural homeland. Let's go back to it, but without the Torah. And interestingly, again, I'm kind of like stepping away from the book and giving a little bit of history. Interestingly, when Uganda was suggested to them, even the non-religious said, no, it has to be Eretz Yisrael. It can't be just any place that will be a safe haven for Jews. It has to be the land of Israel, because that's where culturally we're connected to. This is our homeland. So without realizing their stand, they were taking a religious position, because why else would they have that position if it's not stated so in the Torah? So the fact that they are holding steadfast to the fact that it has to be Eretz Yisrael, this location geographically on the globe, on planet Earth, already is a religious position. And they weren't willing to let go of it. Interestingly, historically speaking, Herzl was ready to let go of it. He was voted down in the Zionist conference, which actually sent him into a depression. That suggestion of going to Uganda as a solution for anti-Semitism, the world is offering us a safe haven that we can be the controllers of our own life, and and that position from even the non-religious people saying we reject that plan, it has to be Israel. uh, Herzl took a very bad hit to his nefesh. He actually went into a depression of it. It was the beginning of his the sickness that led to his death. That rejection. But in any case, he's saying here, Rav Teichel, going back to the book, that he's addressing now the pioneers, the olim in his time of uh, of the 1930s, during the Holocaust and before the Holocaust, what led to it from the late 1800s, 1890s till the present of his time, the mass olim was from the non-religious, and he's telling them here, that without the religious people, the cities of Zion will not be built. He's saying you think you can just push your agenda and push the Torah out of this new society that you want to build in the land of Israel based on socialism. A lot of them came from communist countries. Believing in the concept of socialism, that's where all the kibbutzim movement were brought into Israel from that perspective. And he's saying, don't think your endeavor can ever fulfill itself in success, in sustainability over long periods of time, without you involving, without allowing space for Yirat Shamayim, for the religious people in Israel. Ve'rak beruach Hashem yivaneh arei Yehuda, and he says, only with the spirit of Hashem will the cities of Judah be built. V'im ki ala biyad chelek me'amon latchil b'binyan haaretz, and the fact that the schut, the merit of the beginning of the building of the cities in Eretz Yisrael, in a large part began by a multitude of people that were non-religious. And by the way, I have to say this, many cities in Israel were built, actually, if you check the history, by Haredim. And it seems like there's a rewriting of history to try to wipe away the tremendous self-sacrifice of the Haredim, also in the 20s and 30s, of building cities in Eretz Yisrael. And you can find it in all kinds of sites on YouTube. If you want, you can contact me privately, and I can send you to those sites to understand the Haredi involvement there. But nonetheless, there seems to be, on the face of it, that the building and the settling of the cities in Israel, to a large part, and the kibbutzim and the agricultural efforts of bringing that type of economy and sustainability and self-sufficiency to the people of the land of Israel, it seemed to have been pushed forward by the non-religious. And he said, despite the fact that there are many non-religious people that did this, don't think that the success, as much as you were able to have, to the extent that you had, don't think you did it alone. Don't think it was just your hands and your efforts that built what you see built in Israel of that time. Rak nesa hakol b'siyata dishmaya. Know that you had the help of heaven blessing your efforts and bringing it into fruition. ועל פי סיבת כל הסיבות שסיבב בידם לעשות התחלה על ידם דווקא, and it's because of the cause of all causes. It's God the Almighty, for reasons that He knows, allowed the building of the land to the extent that it was built with its institutions, aside from what the Haredim did, but granted, a lot of it was built by the non-religious. It was by design of Hashem that it should happen through your hands. And don't think that it was just your brain and the power of your brow and your brain that did these things. You had siyata dishmaya that allowed you to build what you build. As I explained above in a lengthy way, he says, but you need further siyata, further help from heaven to continue, for it to be to continue and be sustained over time. To be able to continue growing and rising, ever rising in this avoda, in this service, and to develop it until the task of really building the land comes to its fruition, to its final purpose, actualizing its full potential of what it's meant to be. And without help, chas v'shalom, God forbid, without this help from Shamayim, in a split second, all of this could be nullified. All of this can turn to naught. וכמו שהיה אצל הנשיא דון יוסף, שרמזתי לאייל, וביום אחד יוכלו לאבד כל יגיעתם שיגעו עד עתה אם לא יהיה מרצון השם. He's making a reference to something that I don't remember now. Don Yosef Hanassi says here, Don Yosef Hanassi, see above page 180. I'm not going to open it. If somebody at home wants to find page 180 to see what this reference of Don Yosef, I don't remember that particular story, but what he's saying, the point of what he's saying is, you have to do your ishtadlut. But at a certain point, you have to understand that had heaven helped you with all of your efforts, and to continue to fulfill everything to its final purpose, you need to recognize that, and you need to call upon that for that to happen. עיין ליל, מה שהבאתי בשם המקובל אלוקי בעל הון עשיר, שאם אינו כפי רצון השם יוכל להיות חס וחמד שמחה תוגה. Okay, and he's making another reference to some other Kabbalists that he brought, an author of Hon Yashir, that what begins in joy, what seems to be blessed with a blessing that brings people to joy, wow, we're building Israel, it chas v'shalom, it could end up in sorrow if it's not handled spiritually, responsibly. Therefore, he's now addressing the non-religious settlers of the land and the builders of the land. You have to, at a certain point, bring in the spirit of Torah to help you achieve all the goals that you want for the land. And not only just in the spirit of Torah, but through the advice of the Gdolei Chochmei Torah, the wise people of the rabbis of the generation that are leading, that are Torah leaders. And then it will have all the siyata that it needs. Edie, you found something for us about Don Yosef? You're still muted. We don't hear you. You're muted. Now you're no video. It's tricky. I guess she's using her phone. No video, and is she coming back on? So we're going to continue. Are you going to unmute?
Okay.
Okay. Now, yeah.
I was trying. It's
okay,
on my
ahead.
phone. So
yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Basically, on page 180, it says that over 300 years ago, the noble Don Yosef Hanassi, a member of the Sultan's court, made efforts to rebuild Eretz Yisrael and transform it into a gathering and dwelling place for the Jews. With the Sultan's permission, he sent workers and artisans, and he even visited himself from time to time to supervise the workers, but he was unsuccessful. The neighboring Arabs became extremely envious, interfered with the work, and abolished this endeavor. Today, on the other hand, efforts to rebuild the land grow daily and they multiply despite the Arabs' envy. No obstacle or deterrent can stop workers from doing their task. Day by day, the land expands and grows with new houses, trees, fields, vineyards, and orchards. This is certainly not a simple matter, and it is undoubtedly not a natural phenomenon.
Okay, thank you for that. And we're going to continue.
So basically, he's saying it has to be with Hashem's cooperation.
And that's it. So that's the same point that he's saying. Okay, והעיקר שבאתי עתה לעורר את רבת המון, שבאו לארץ ועובדים עבודת האדמה ועבודת חומה, לבנות בתים וכדומה, מעבודת הבניין והיישוב. So now, again, he's addressing specifically the multitudes of people that came, the masses of people that came to Israel to build the land, to build the buildings and the structures, and to settle the land. שאל יחשבו שעבודת האדמה והיישוב בארץ הקודש היא רק עבודה חומרית. Don't think that what you're doing is only a physical matter. You're not just building the land physically. You're not just settling the land in a physical way. כעבודת אדמה ויישוב בחוץ לארץ, as it would have been the case in the lands where you came from in Chutz La'aretz, where that type of endeavor, that type of effort is called agriculture. You're not just doing agriculture when you're doing agriculture in Israel. Because agriculture is just for the sake of physical provision of the land to be able to feed itself, of the settlers of the land. It's not just a physical endeavor. This is a culture that you learned in Chutz La'aretz. That type of mentality, building the land, this is for Chutz La'aretz. This type of work belongs to the nations of the world. But as it says in the Midrash of Shir HaShirim, on the pasuk, Samuni notera et hakramim, v'karmi sheli lo notarti. They put me to guard the vineyards, to build the vineyards, but on my own vineyard, I did not guard. Of course, the pasuk here in Shir HaShirim is making a reference. Here, let me get the exact quote. They made me the keeper of the vineyards, but my own vineyard, I did not guard. What's our own vineyard? Eretz Yisrael. They made me guardians of the vineyards. That means in Chutz La'aretz, the Jewish people, wherever they were, brought blessing to wherever they were, brought prosperity to the land on all levels of economy, of advancement in all areas, and they gave their kochot to what so many times he refers to the nations of the world that hosted us as the stepmother that ended up turning her back upon us and ended up being cruel. For all of the keeping of the vineyards, for all the thanks that we brought prosperity to the lands, they ended up just stealing from us and taking all the credit for themselves and whatever policies they had for the Jews of their land, either expulsion or death or forced conversions. And he says it's time we come to be the guardians of our own vineyards. In Eretz Yisrael, שמוני נטרת הכרמים לכבוד האומות וכרמי שלי זה הקדוש ברוך הוא לא נטרתי. So the vineyard of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the vineyard of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is in that proverb, we are also the vineyard of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but we, the vineyard of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, have also the vineyards of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Eretz Yisrael that we have to maintain and cultivate. וזה למוסר השכל ולתוכחה מגולה לאחינו בני ישראל שבגולה שנתנו כל כוחותיהם הרוחניים culture של אומות העולם. And this is Musar this is rebuke for the Jews still like in Chutz La'aretz thinking that they can stay in Chutz La'aretz and keep being the guardians of vineyards of cultures that are nothing to do with them, that don't have any loyalty to them, that don't have any love for them. You're putting all your efforts to make America great again, all kinds of slogans like that, Australia, all kinds of European countries. I had a French taxi driver the other day that I was using, and we spoke about, okay, I come from Quebec, so a lot of anti-Semitism now in Canada. It's ridiculous what's going on with the government in Canada. And so we talk about the anti-Semitism in France, and I say, how come not everyone's leaving France? He says, because when you live there, you don't really notice it. I know from my Montreal friends and family that's still there, they're very much noticing the anti-Semitism. It's in their face. You can't, but somehow in France, if you're not, you can still live and be in La La Land that it's not really there, but even though it's there. But in any case, okay, that was a diversion. I'm sorry, I glitched into that. Shenatnu, but so they're still giving and they're holding on to a false culture that's not theirs that they think in their mind. I'm going to say it. I think he says it in the other chapters, like an abused wife that maybe this time he won't hit me. Maybe in this time I won't be maybe if I'll be good enough to them and I'll bring them enough money and show them how really I am culturally adjusted to their culture, they will leave me alone and they will respect me. And it doesn't work. And how many times do we have to go through the same historical mess to get that point? But their culture only advanced because the Jews gave so much of themselves to the development of these countries, but instead of holding any bit of decency, of gratitude to whoever helped build their land and brought prosperity to them, instead of giving them a portion for all the good that they contributed, to the host culture. Instead of that, they robbed them from their rights and expelled them from giving them any sort of portion. And what happens is all the efforts of the Jews to build the host cultures in the lands of their where they came from ended up being eaten up and used by other people, and the Jews didn't get a chance to enjoy it. Zot Goral Achenu. This is the fate, the destiny. This is the fate of our brothers, children of Israel, Shinizarucho, were distant, that the host cultures turned their back on them, uh, and for cultivating the vineyards of the host cultures and being prevented from cultivating their own vineyards. And some of them are still insisting to still cultivate the vineyards of the nations of the world instead of coming here to cultivate their own vineyards. Al kol panim, in any case, he says, Esbiu nafsham bekul teraguim. There's Jews that are that fill their belly with the culture of the non-Jewish culture, and it becomes their identity. And so those Jews, okay, that decided to leave their host cultures, the countries, the non-Jewish countries, okay, and come back to Eretz Yisrael, they brought with them that mentality of culture and agriculture that has nothing to do with spirituality, but just serves a physical function of living physically on the land without addressing the needs of the neshama, of the spirit. He's giving them what he's doing here, he's explaining the psychology behind, and he's giving them he's kind of giving them a benefit of the doubt. I understand you. I understand where you're coming from, you, the non-religious pioneers of the land. You weren't given a Torah education. You were swept away with the nationalism of the countries you came from. You were inculcated by the cultures of socialism or whatever ism that you came from that defined what a free person is meant to look like from a goyish perspective, because that's the chinuch that you got, that's the education that you got. And then you brought all of that education with you when you came to the land of Israel because you wanted to build something of your own because you always experienced anti-Semitism. And you're trying to imitate what you saw there amongst the Goyim and bring that culture to the land of Israel. To be like the Goyim, but as a Jew living in Israel without the Judaism. And he says it doesn't work. It works up until a point. God allowed you to build the land. But at a certain point, you have to adjust to what it means to do all of that Jewishly, with the Torah perspective, with the wisdom of the rabbis, of the sages. So when the pioneers came to the land and began their work, in the manner that they were used to doing that work, understanding it from the Goyish perspective. So these people now, we have to make it known to them. We have to announce it to them. We have to teach them that this work that they're bringing to the land, of building the land, that is considered a physical endeavor, only a physical endeavor in the Holy Land. It needs to be coupled with spiritual endeavors, with spiritual avoda. And that's what's going to give it a blessing to continue. Because every action, anything done in terms of building the land, agriculturally and everything, all the infrastructures, okay? Mamash, like the physical buildings, like plowing and planting and seeding and planting trees, and to build buildings and houses and making roads and all of the things that a functioning country needs. Yes, these are all things, are functions, endeavors that are need for settling the land, to allow the Jews to settle, to live in an appropriate way. Like you need a road, you need hospitals, you need universities, you need yeshivas, you need buildings. Okay, you need cultural centers. We need we need playgrounds. And so you need to settle, you need to build the land so that the people can actually live like normal people on the land. But you can't divorce all of that from the mitzvah. The mitzvah yechashev. And when you're doing it, addressing the pioneers, the non-religious people, when you're doing it, it can't just be from a physical place. And even without you knowing it, it's considered a mitzvah. Any endeavor that's done by anyone, even without kavanah, without intention for it to be a fulfillment of a mitzvah, if you're helping Jews live normal on the land, settling the land, like as in living normally, taking your kids to the playground type of thing, okay? It's considered a mitzvah whether you know it or not. And then he's bringing from the Chassam Sofer that says something unbelievable, that anyone who does anything for settling the land, to allow Jews to live normal lives in the land, of course we need Torah, but he's not even talking about that yet, just living normally, like building and allowing settling the land, is as much of a mitzvah. It's no less of a mitzvah as tefillin or lulav and a sukkah. And any other mitzvah that you prepare to, that you do, that you need to fulfill a spiritual obligation. So building the land and set in a way that will make it inhabitable and in a way that we can settle and live on it is a clay kodesh. It's like tefillin, he says. It's like, look, there's a mitzvah of doing lulav. Can you fulfill the mitzvah of lulav and tefillin without tefillin and lulav? Can you fulfill the mitzvah of sukkah without a sukkah? So can you fulfill the mitzvah of settling the land without making it settleable, if that's a word. So so if there's a mitzvah of Yishuv haaretz, and there is a mitzvah of Yishuv haaretz, then you have to make it something that is inhabitable, somewhere that you can actually settle in, to be miyushav in it. And any effort to bring us to be able to do that, it's like preparing tefillin for the mitzvah of tefillin. It's unbelievable what the Chassam Sofer here is saying. Ultra Haredi, anti-Zionist position. But to be an anti-Zionist, it's not meaning, doesn't mean that you don't understand the importance of the Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. It doesn't exempt you from coming and doing the mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. Zionism is a political movement. You can have your opinions about how the politics are supposed to look like, but don't confuse that type of politics in the name of Zionism, which is a form of nationalism, Jewish nationalism, with the mitzvah of Yishuv and Binyan Eretz Yisrael. And so we see here that he's quoting ultra Haredi sources that speak about the importance of it. And we who are living in this privileged time, that are sitting on the shoulders of giants, that allowed us to enjoy everything in Eretz Yisrael that we enjoy here now, the settlers and the builders. We have to, the call is to bring more Torah, to really make it a religious endeavor, to infuse it with a spirituality that is meant to be, because we're here not just to imitate, to be another nation like any other nation on earth. Planet Earth doesn't need another nation with another territory to fight wars over. This is not what these wars are about. There's a divine message that's unfolding. And this is the message of this chapter, that he's saying it's time for the religious to appreciate the effort of the non-religious, what they did to build the land. And the non-religious have to appreciate that, to have continued blessing and continued the blessing to reach ultimate purpose of what this glorious nation of ours, on this land of ours, what we can give to humanity and the world over. You have to involve the religious. You have to make room for the religious talk. You have to make room for the neshama, for the Torah, for your roots, of why you're willing, against all rational explanations, you're willing to die for it, and you're saying this has nothing to do with Torah. It doesn't make sense for you to die for this if it's not for an ultimate purpose that's going to advance the world in all the blessings that we want to see in the world. And you're holding on to this piece of land, and you rejected Uganda, and if somebody suggested you, so leave Israel, go live in America, whatever, you're not going to do it. You're willing to stay on this land. And he's saying, expose what that irrational thought is based in. There's a Jewish neshama there that's calling out. And it's time for you to stop rejecting it. Okay? אבל כבר קדמו בזה הגאון. Now he's bringing, תשבץ, another gadol, שביאר דין זה באורך מאוד מסכם. Okay, so he's going now. He's gonna go into an explanation of this concept of settling the land as a mitzvah, as a positive commandment in the Torah. And he's quoting the Ramban, who apparently was his grandfather. That's cool. Elaikal mitzvah yeshivat, that the mitzvah of settling the land means, translated into real time, what that looks like is making it inhabitable, allowing homes to be built on, and so you settling the land for the sake of being able to live normal human life on it. And it's dependent on two reasons, two causes. One, How are we going to fulfill this mitzvah of settling the land? First of all, you have to make aliyah. You have to be in the land of Israel to build the land. You can't make Yishuv Eretz Yisrael without being there. Okay, so depending on this mitzvah of Yeshiva Eretz is dependent on aliyah. Because if you don't make aliyah, how are you going to live there? And the second cause it depends on is settling the land. By Yishuv and settling the land means involving yourself with the physical cultivating of the land proper, of the earth. Yes, agriculture, but not agriculture for agriculture's sake. Because everything that we do agriculturally in Israel, it's a mitzvah. So many mitzvot. The Torah the Shulchan Aruch is full of how to do things properly in terms of the agriculture. The pardesim, to bring orchards and trees, and to purchase fields, and to build buildings and homes and all the normal needs of a human being. So the mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, is predicated on two conditions. You have to make aliyah. You have to be in the land of Israel to do it. And I'm going to say in parentheses, if you give money to help people who live here, do that. And it's not your time for whatever reason of doing it, but your heart is here, and you're giving your support in all ways for it to happen. You're connected to that mitzvah. And I'm saying this because he said it in previous chapters. So again, you have to make aliyah, and you have to actually be there, like, to build it, make it habitable. Because wherever you find food and places to live, homes, that's where you find settling of the land. That's what it's called. That's what it's called, settling the land. You have enough food and you have a place, a shelter. And making aliyah is important to achieving this mitzvah of Yeshiva Eretz. And the settling of the land is in order to fulfill the mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. V'chen shana v'shilesh, and so who's he quoting here? The Tashbetz that goes over it many times. Al ken ani omer she'ishuv ve'aliyah shetehen sibot hamitzvah. That both aliyah and settling of the land are both part of the mitzvah. Ela she'achat mekademet v'acheret magat. That one, it precedes the other. You have to settle the land in the way that makes it inhabitable, has to be preceded by aliyah, obviously. You need people to be able to do it. היינו, היישוב מגיע ומקיים אותו בקיום המצווה. והם המכשירי מצווה כמו תפילין. And anything done after the aliyah to grow the land and make it inhabitable is no less than being engaged in a mitzvah like tefillin, like sukkah, like lulav. You need the articles to be able to fill the mitzvah. So you need the article, in this case, the land being inhabitable, investing in settling the land, Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, all the Yishuvim that are cropping up, Bezrat Hashem, Hashem should protect them. All the farmers, making all the inhabitable. It always amazes me when I have a daughter that lives in Kochava Shachar. Whenever you travel to any of these yishuvim, there's so much land. It's so beautiful. Really, it pulls at my heartstrings every time. I come from Canada, and the Laurentians in Canada are gorgeous, lush green, so many lakes, so many. I forget what it's called. What do you call those? Evergreens. It's so lush and so rich, but it doesn't. And my eyes are like, love the beauty of it, but nothing compares when you go drive through the Judean mountains, or even the mountains of Shomron. Any such place in Israel, there's such, I don't know, the beauty of it, which can't compare to maybe non-Jewish eyes. How could you compare those mountains to the mountains of the Laurentians? beauty-wise, but they're so beautiful. They're so it tugs at my heart. But what amazes me also, it stirs my soul, is what I'm trying to say. But there's so many uninhabitable places. It's like you think, how many millions of people? It's such a small land, and we have Kanena Har, we have a few million people living in Israel, but there's so much room for more settlements. So my Eretz, I'm gonna diverge now, and I'm gonna bring my knowledge from my other Torah that I teach. Eretz Yisrael is called the Eretz Tzvi. Actually, I think he brings it in one of these chapters. It's called the Eretz Tzvi, the land of the deer. Is that Tzvi a deer in English? Yeah, Tzvi, yeah. Land of the deer. Why is it called the land of the deer? Because it's a taxonomy when you remove the animal and just and keep its skin and then you fill it up and the animal looks like it's standing, but it's just filled in with other stuff. You know what I'm talking about? Is that called taxonomy? Somebody tell me. I don't know. Whatever it is, it's like you
Taxidermy in English.
taxidermy. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So the unique quality of a tzvi, of a deer, is that when the animal is removed from its skin, and if you try to put that animal back into its skin, the skin is mi'ut ha'machziket ha'merubeh. It's a little bit that contain more that it can handle. The animal will not be able to fit back into its own skin. Its skin seems to not have been able to, like, proportionally, size-wise, contain all the animal that was there, which is not true of any other animal. And why is Eretz Yisrael called Eretz Tzvi? Because Israel, as small as it looks like, you'd think, how could it support all the Jews from all over the world to live in it? There's not enough space. I've heard this argument before. There's not enough space in Israel to support all Jews. But Israel is Eretz Tzvi. It supports more than you think it can handle. It's that miraculous. And then another way of understanding that possibility of Israel being able to contain more than that you'd think it's physically possible is because it's mountains and valleys. And when you travel in the land of Israel through Yehuda v'Shomron especially, then you see the hills and the valleys, and so it looks like it's a small space. But if you flatten everything out, if you level everything, oh, it's so much more space. And so the message to all Jews is there is enough space. Don't worry about it. You're going to have enough housing. There's going to be enough housing for you. You'll have your piece of land. Come and live the miracle. Okay. So where was I in this thing? Yishuv u'tzarich kiyum. Okay. באמת לולי דמסתפינה מחברי ביותר. What's he saying here? What's he saying here? Truthfully, if I was not afraid that my colleagues and teachers would ridicule me. Now he's going to suggest something. He's really hot on this of this mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, saying, if I didn't think, because he's a very big Talmid Chacham, wrote a lot of responsive, he wrote a lot, authored a lot of books. He was a big posek. And from that place, he says, he would love to make this suggestion, but he's afraid to be ridiculed. That Hayiti Omer Devar Chadash, I would innovate a halacha. As it says, based on what it says in Masechet Sukkah and Menachot, that someone who makes a lulav for himself or a sukkah for himself, if they prepare the mitzvah, there's a mitzvah, there's a bracha of shechianu to be said about it. As we know, we say shechianu. He's saying, so just like shechianu is a blessing that's said, Chazal teach us this, we get this from brachot, about anything that brings you to joy. A new article that brings you to joy, mitzvah is in that category. You haven't done it in a long time. Baruch Hashem, you've come to that place of being able to fulfill this mitzvah. The neshama feels that elation, that elevation, that joy. You say Shechianu, that has given me life, because when you experience happening, you feel an increased measure of life within you. We know that when we buy a new article of clothing, the gladness it brings to our heart, and we say Shechianu because we feel, wow, you know what? This feels refreshed. My soul feels refreshed. I have an extra measure of life in me. I'm besimcha. I'm going to say Shechianu. That's why, by the way, for articles of clothing that don't do that for you, you don't have to say Shechianu. It's only for articles of clothing that do that. It's not for, it's for the special articles of clothing like that. So he's saying, this mitzvah, Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, someone who begins with this, to take that plow and put it in the ground, and it brings them to a place of joy, of building the land for himself and for other Jews, to build himself a home. He wants to institute a Shechianu to be said on that. As it stands now, there's no mitzvah like that. But he's saying, well, why not? Why shouldn't we have that bracha instituted when we start building the land of Israel? Any person beginning for himself doing that mitzvah. ושגם כשאנו לעצמו שיש לחלק בין סוכה לולב ובין יישוב, שהמצווה לעשות הארץ ראוי ליישוב, אם כן אינו צריך שיהיה דווקא לעצמו. And he says, in case of sukkah and lulav, as opposed to Eretz Yisrael, we can understand it in a separate way. Because a person who makes for himself a sukkah or prepares for himself a lulav has to say Shechianu, because it's a mitzvah they're doing for themselves. Unlike building the land of Israel, it's even if you do it for another person to be able to live on the piece of land that you're putting the plow there in for, you can say Shechianu. It's not just for a piece of land that you yourself are going to be benefiting from. Any person doing any avoda, making the land settleable for any Jew, even if you're not going to be the one living there, it's in Rav Techtel's mind, it's a mitzvah that that Jew should be able to say Shechianu for, even for other people's. And then he's bringing again, he's making a whole pilpul here, he's bringing from other Gemaras, discussions of which mitzvah you say Shechianu for, which mitzvah you don't say. And the point is that it's mitzvahs that bring you to happiness, to gladness. Those are the ones you say Shechianu for the reason I explained to you, because you get a measure of extra life force within you. We can relate to that when we get a new item of clothing. And Vadai, that settling the land of Israel brings a Jew to that, to be able to say. And then he says, Lo bati ela le'ha'ir velo lehalacha. I'm coming here just to point out, not to teach you halacha. It's not to be practiced. You have to listen to Gdolei Ador that have to all agree that mitzvah will require a Shechianu. And until the Gdolim, I don't know, a full measure of them will agree to this halacha, to say Shechianu in the settling of the land, when you start building it, that's when you say it. But he just felt like he just had to share that. So Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll have many reasons to say Shechianu, whether we say it formally or not. The land will keep being building. Hashem should protect all the people of Israel. We're not forgetting the Chatufim. There's still Jews in Gaza that are not forgotten, but we don't know where they are, and Hashem should protect them from any harm. They should all come back home to their families and bring comfort to all the Jewish people. The war should end in Iran with full victory, and peace should come back to the land. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of like, in Israel here, everything's slowed down. The light rail is not working, the stores are closed, and I'm kind of like enjoying the quiet time. But there's many people that are working very hard to keep us protected and safe and getting rid of the enemy, and we want to send them all the brachot and all of the Torah learning that's done all over and all the mitzvot that every one of us is doing and everyone is doing to support their efforts with a neshama, with a sense of mitzvah that they're doing, to bring them the siyata dishmaya to come to full success and full fruition of all the purpose for which we are here to begin with in the land of Israel, building the land for the protection of not only the Jewish people, but for the betterment of all humanity. Bezrat Hashem naseh v'netzliach. Anyone wants to unmute themselves and say something because
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
going
I
to.
want to say that I listened
Who's
to.
talking? Hold on, identify. Oh, Yudit is talking?
Yeah,
Okay.
I heard a very brilliant shiur by Rabbi Manusi, and he was saying that when the Chalutzim came, they had an idea to make Israel shelter, and they didn't think beyond. And now we're seeing that we are really set the light that we were told that we are, that we're the lighthouse. So we're moving from shelter to being the lighthouse and the light.
Beautiful said. That's a beautiful summary of this chapter, what you're saying. Thank you so much for bringing that. Anyone else? Okay, so to be continued. Next week, Bezrat Hashem in person with Mashiach. Why not? Okay, we'll see how long these Zooms are going to go on and not in person, but Baruch Hashem for Zoom. Okay.
Amen. And please stay for Hannah Golda's class in about 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, it's not stay. We're going to close the Zoom and there's another Zoom for Chana Golda. Yeah, at home, come join us. Ginny, I'll send you the Zoom link. Everyone else
Why,
is on the,
it's a
is on the
different Zoom
chat
than you.
that has, what?
Hannah Golda's Zoom is a different Zoom than what you sent last night?
No, but it's not this
Oh,
one. Okay, I
okay.
have to close. Bye. Bye.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure.